Now we're just waiting for the fancy little YouTube alert over here. Hey, look at that. It says we're live over there. Bam. And let me turn that down. Give it a minute to catch up because I don't know what it's doing. Do 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 do. Do do do. Ta-da. There it is. Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamu alaikum, boys and girls. It is Tuesday evening on the East Coast. It is, you know what? It's Tuesday evening in Texas, too, Central Time Zone.
I was like, which country did we go?
I am completely exhausted, and we are on day 672 of quarantine in the month April. And we are here coming at you live this evening to bring you some edutainment. And before I continue to get further tongue-tied, ladies and gentlemen, the hardest working imam that I know, Imam Azhar.
Assalamu alaikum. Greetings of peace to all of you from another planet, in another time, in another century. We welcome you all and we thank you all for joining us. That's exactly what quarantine does to a person. Of course, when adjustments occur in our life, sometimes it takes a toll on our spiritual, mental, and physical state. So that is why we have Raw Islam with Imam Azhar and Brother Carl, where we put together these predicaments that we face and we try to examine a solution for them. We start the conversation. You all continue the conversation. So thank you once again for being here for another edutainment episode of Raw Islam. And tonight we are going to be turning to you once again, as we do almost every Tuesday when we are on, and we resort to the poll that was placed on Twitter and what you selected from the topics of discussion. So, without further ado, we'll ask our dear brother Carl to enlighten us as to what were the topics of this week and what you, our listeners, our fellow uh, table discussion folks, decided. With that, Carl?
Our fellow space travelers that we are here with this evening. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, if you follow us on Twitter, VennNetwork, VennNetwork, you can follow us and get all of our updates and all of our information and all of our fancy little news. And you'll even get on Mondays a poll where you, as a follower, a fan, and a listener of the show, get to participate in the topics that will be discussed. This week, the poll was posted, and the options were 10 days to Ramadan, and of course, now it's 9, but Monday it was 10. Holidays in quarantine, new normal, and of course, the house favorite that is always up there. What's the deal with? And that, as you know or you don't know, is a grab bag where the audience votes on that. And Imam Azhar and I get to talk about whatever's on his mind and whatever is on his heart on that day. The poll ran Monday through this afternoon, and the results were, drum roll please, 9 days, well, 10 days to Ramadan. I mean, it's 9 now, but when the poll was posted, it was 10. So there you go. Our topic this evening is 9 days to Ramadan. And with that, back to you, sir.
Well, thank you so much, Brother Carl, for again very clearly articulating to all of us, the hosts, the listeners, as to what those topics are, where they can find those topics, and where they can, of course, vote for those topics. It's been it's seeming to be a trend over the last few weeks. What's the deal with is gaining votes. In our first 100 episodes, I don't even think we got more than 2 votes on that. So it seems like Carl is really winning here as he is,
I
you
I
know,
did not vote for that. This week, I won't lie. There have been weeks where I voted for it, but this week was not one of them. And in fact, I'll share my vote with the group just because, even though voting should always be a personal thing and should be done quietly, but I actually voted for holidays in quarantine, and the reason I voted for that was because Easter had just passed while we were in quarantine, and Ramadan is coming up, and it looks, I mean, it's in 9 days. We're probably still going to be in quarantine. So, in my head, I figured holidays in quarantine was a nice bridge between the two topics. But this week, I did not vote for that.
And to tag along with what you said, brother Carl, I also voted for holidays in quarantine because I felt that as you said, um, religious holidays are occurring in this time when we are all in quarantine due to one and the same reason. And it was interesting to note that the Vatican and people around the world celebrated Easter Mass, Sunday Mass on Easter Sunday, in to empty churches, preaching to empty churches. Some churches put pictures of their congregants on the pews just to kind of give a feeling of that connection. Um, and of course, the majority, if not all of them, live streamed their their services, their prayers, and their words of advice to their congregants. We also saw some people do drive up in the parking lot of the church. So people use creative ways of engaging with their congregants and their flock. And what we're learning is that a desperate time calls for desperate measures. And we truly are in desperate times because these times are times that you and I, and possibly every person on the face of this earth, at least 99% of them, have never seen such a phenomenon. And possibly it has never occurred like this in the world. We know the last time the world was on a global, shutdown was the flood of Noah. And without joking, that's when the entire world was flooded. So there was a global shutdown. But this is what you're talking about, a shutdown where business as usual, quote unquote, has been put to a standstill, where flights, where meetings, where schools, where events, where conferences and vacations, everything has been put onto a screeching halt hold. It wasn't just like people are just holding on to it. This is like a screeching halt. The brakes are done, the engines are turned off. It's like we're not moving until further notice. Of course, we don't want to go into the politics of it tonight as to when the country would open and what's required for us to be safe once more. But for religion, it is a time that people who may not feel greatly inclined towards their religion or to their spirituality are starting to see that void and acknowledge and identify the need to fill it. Um, for our physical well-being, people are doing exercises and yoga and eating healthy diets at home. For those who need a mental break, are watching TV, binging series, learning subject on the internet, or trying to keep themselves busy and occupied. But then there's that spiritual element, and that spiritual element is also craving for attention. It is also craving for food, and that is why you will notice, if you have not, as a spiritual leader, I'm welcome to share with you that our workload and the intensity of what we're doing has actually gone up over the last few weeks. We may not be at the mosque, serving at the mosque, leading prayers at the mosque, or doing programs at the mosque, but the online programs have been a strenuous task to adapt to when it comes to the room, when it comes to lighting. I got 5 lights on right now and I still have a shadow behind me. It's all about getting the right place. And then, of course, if you don't have the right place in your home, you're always improvising with different areas and trying to see what would work. So an aspect of challenge. And then, in addition to that challenge, you have the challenge of the different needs that arise for the community at this time. So spirituality is right now on a catch up. People are trying to catch back up to their spiritual needs and identifying what those needs are and trying to gain as much spiritual enlightenment as they could. So, in a time when the world celebrates in their respective ways their respective holidays, there comes a time that you have to actually prepare yourselves spiritually before you celebrate those spiritual holidays. And for us, that's called Ramadan. And Ramadan isn't a celebration for the Muslims. Ramadan is the prescription that comes before the celebration. The celebration, which is known as Eid, and in the case of this one, Eid ul Fitr, which means the celebration of feasting, this is going to happen after 30 days of fasting, 30 days of dedication, 30 days of spiritual devotion, 30 days of standing in prayer, and 30 days of reading the Quran. So this is right around the corner. We're looking at possibly, well, we're saying 9 days, seven, eight, nine. We're looking at next Friday. So we're just around that mark. We're going to be hitting Ramadan and it will start. And no doubt it's going to be a different Ramadan. I posted that on Facebook just last night that we are going to be experiencing a very unique Ramadan. So, in tonight's discussion on Ramadan, I want us to first and foremost understand that religion doesn't change, nor does religion suffer in times of these. Matter of fact, in times of such crises, religion is always a very instrumental tool in bringing about physical, mental sanity and stability, and also helping and change the status quo. So, religion isn't going to go bankrupt, and nor is religion going to feel that it is pushed to the sideline. Rather, it's going to be pulled in as we speak. And for the Muslims around the world who realize going to the mosque once a year or once 1 month of a year or a few days in that month of the year now are scratching their heads and asking, where will we go? I want us to tonight reflect that we don't need to go anywhere. We already are where we need to be for this to happen. You have to remember that the wisdom of God is such that God always places us in the right place, in the right time for the right thing to happen. That's if we submit to His will. If we fail to submit to His will, chances are we may end up in the wrong place at the wrong time for the wrong thing. So the question is, with these 9, 10 days before Ramadan, am I willing to stop fighting what's happening and start submitting to the Lord? Or do I want to fight it and restore what I feel is the right way so I can be worshiping the Lord in the way I want to? See, the struggle that people are having, Carl, is I want it my way. And in wanting it your way, like I want to go to the mosque, I want to pray in the first row, I want to do this. Wanting it your way doesn't mean that's the religious way. And so, how can we separate our selfish wants and desires from our spiritual prescription? The spiritual prescription still stands if you're in a hospital bed in a hospital. It still stands if you're in a country that doesn't shut its restaurants down during the day for you to abstain from food and drink because you're fasting. It doesn't change if you are young. It doesn't change if you're old. It doesn't change if you're male or female. This is a prescription. So with Ramadan 9 days away, people are scared. Many people I've spoken to are scared. They're worried that how is this Ramadan going to be? So the answer is it's going to be an amazing one. It's going to be a unique one. It's going to be one for the books and one for the records. It's going to be one that tomorrow your great grandchildren will look back and say, you know what? There was an amazing Ramadan they had once when everyone was unable to reach out to each other. But during that time, they exhorted their energy and they reached out to God. And it's we're waiting for that moment, and the Lord is waiting for us. Allah is waiting for us to reach out to Him. And so, Carl, Ramadan is coming for all of us, yourself included. Tell me, what are some things that are on your mind? For myself personally, Carl, quite a few things, but I want to hear from you first.
So, so I will say, and it was funny. I didn't think about it till I just heard you say it, and it was because of the quarantine and because of the setup that we have here. A lot of our restaurants are closing like 6, 7 o'clock. You can't get food after that,
Mm-hmm.
and I know that my wife occasionally, as I guess most people, You
Mhm.
know, when Ramadan comes, you have that craving of that food that you want, and nothing else is going to work. And I have to have this specific food for iftar.
Mhm.
Very first world problem. But at the end of the day, if your restaurants are closing at 6, 7 o'clock, and you can't get order or get takeout from one's place or another,
Mhm.
that's gone. You're not going to get that. And I know my wife and some of her friends were talking about iftars last week, and I told them, I said, you know what? I said, yeah, we can. I'm going to cook, and that's what that's going to be our Ramadan. That's what we're going to do. And I because I'm not interested in getting close to anybody, because it's my health. I'm not willing to risk my health just because somebody else is lonely. It's my time to reflect on Allah. It's my time to reflect on Allah's commandments. It's my time to get closer to Allah. It's not my time to risk my life, because this is what we always do in Ramadan. It just doesn't work like that. And so that's been my big thing. And you know, you were talking, and I was reminded of the now famous internet meme that has circled the globe, which is the reporter standing outside the church, and he's interviewing people as they drive away.
Mhm.
And he asks this one woman, he's like, "Hey, you were just violating the space order, and you were in a very close congregation. What's up with that?" And she's like, "I'm washed in the blood of Jesus Christ. I don't fear COVID." Wow, bro. And it's so weird. It just that, but that's what came to mind. Salam, Sister Layla. I know that video has been lost, but I think it's just on my end. And as soon as I click this fancy little button, Ima Mazhar should be back on your screen.
Well, thank you, Sister Layla, and thank you, Brother Carl, for saying that. I agree that the norm is not going to be there, right? The getting together and having breaking your fast together, having a meal together, most likely won't happen. And so I feel that's a blessing in disguise. I recall last Ramadan, I told my congregants no invitations, no dinner parties in Ramadan. I said, make this Ramadan special by putting socialization on the side. We do it throughout the whole year. Let's keep this one simple. Let's not waste our entire day of Ramadan, spiritual moments, opportunities that only happen once in a year, on cooking and on shopping and on getting the foods. Keep it simple. So I personally fulfilled that. I was in the mosque for most of Ramadan. I did not go home. I came home maybe twice. Even at home, we didn't eat any fried foods. At the mosque, I was having juice, sometimes fruit, and maybe a soup. I was keeping it very light and very simple because I wanted to prove to my congregation, as I was trying to prove to myself, that you don't have to have a lot of food to make Ramadan wholesome. You have to have a lot of time to do spiritual work. And with the 9 days left, if we still haven't got a sense of urgency in us, I don't think Ramadan's gonna kick out, like it's not gonna kick in good. We have to make sure that we started on the right foot. And for that right footing, we need to kind of make our schedules from right now. There's so much you can do in 24 hours. The question is, are we willing to manage that time? And as we focus on that subject and we start that discussion tonight, we're not here to complete it. We're here to just start it. You are the ones who take it forward and complete it. We love to hear from you, our listeners, what your thoughts are about Ramadan that's coming up very soon. What are your concerns? What are some of the things that you fear? And before we turn to your questions or concerns, for the lady who in the church parking lot said that I really don't care because I'm, washed in the blood of Jesus, is exactly the distortion of religion that we don't want to hear. There is a very fine balance between what the Lord wants from us and what we want for ourselves. The fact that she said that proved the point I made earlier, where people want Ramadan to be just like it was before. I may not gain anything from it spiritually, but I'm fine. I just want to be around a lot of people. I want to crack some jokes and laugh and cry in the prayer, and I just want to have some. I want to feel the vibe, but I don't want to be the one who makes the vibe. See, there's a big difference there. If you want to just feel the vibe and you don't want to be the one who makes the vibe, then we aren't in a position to lead ourselves even in times of seclusion. This is your moment to lead yourself in your spiritual quest without any hindrance, without any hesitance, without any difficulty. This is your moment. What are you planning to do in your moment? So, Carl, um, I understand that your wife has had her friends over and they had the concern of the collective food. And you know what? What's a better idea is just let's just eat what's at home. Believe me, you know what's more satisfying after a fast when you eat a small meal and you're able to say, you know what? All day there was nothing, and again, this is for people who have no health conditions. Please don't take my word as a physician because I'm not a physician, and I'm not going to say something here which would contradict what your health professional says for you. And I'm not speaking on behalf of COVID-19 or for the malaria drug that's made in India. I'm talking solely for a religious part of it. And the religious part is that if your body allows and you don't have the health issues, do eat simple, and you will be able to savor that meal and relish it and enjoy it and be thankful for it instead of having an eight selection variety of food that will leave you loosening your belt, which will leave you burping all night, which will leave you in a state of laziness that you won't even do the prayers that the night has allotted you the opportunity to pray. So, Carl, tell us, what are the concerns of our listeners and what are the thoughts of our listeners in reference to Ramadan coming up in a few days?
So, Sister Layla, I hope the video is back for you. It's back for me now. I don't know what happened. It was very odd. But yeah, actually, that was why I brought up the lady in the parking lot, was because that was what I heard in my head. Well, if I'm not going to the mosque, and when you were talking about, if I'm not going to the mosque and praying Jama'ah, and I'm not staying up and doing Taraweeh, then I'm not really participating in Ramadan. So I'm just going to go, and Allah will protect me from the COVID. It's no, bro, no. I actually saw, before I get to the comments, I actually saw a thing online, and it was a clipping. I think it was real. I don't know. I want to research it. But it was a clipping from a newspaper, and it was talking about the flu in 1918.
Mm-hmm.
And it was saying that towards the end of the summer, everybody had been so frustrated with, just the quarantining and staying away and that social distancing in 1918 to try to squash it, that they just kind of all, when November came, they were all just like went out and did everything, life back to normal. And there was actually a resurgence of it.
Wow.
So that's why we have to keep this life as we know it is over, and we have to adjust to the new way. But it just shows that we have to continue to even after this to keep going. But Sister Layla says, I totally agree. We need this Ramadan to be extra special and adhere to social distancing. Alhamdulillah, we can pray in our homes, and it doesn't matter where you're at. You can always connect with Allah. Amen, Sister Layla. I completely agree with you 100%. And I will honestly tell you, when I was considering converting to Islam, among the other things that were top of the list, that right there was one of them. That was one of the simple little points where there's no interceding. You don't have to go to somebody to go to somebody to go to somebody, because we're not in the mafia. And you can pray anywhere, and you can speak to God, you can speak to Allah directly. And that was one of the things that drew me to Islam. So there you go. Back to you.
Well, again, Sister Laila, yes, we can find Allah in our own seclusion. The fact is that prophets found Allah in their seclusion. Jesus, peace be upon him, was given prophethood before he was born. He was born a prophet. Seclusion of his mother's womb. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, in the cave of Hira, on the mountain, Moses, when he went up to get the Old Testament. There's so many examples of what positive outcome can occur from being in seclusion. The question is, are we willing to? So it all goes down to the discussion of willingness. It all goes down to the discussion of, can I just block out all my distractions and focus? So the biggest challenge we're having right now as a people and as a nation is the word focus. Are we able to focus? The procrastinations and these hopes that the mosque will open, things will get back to normal. Well, here in Texas, our governor is going to pass an executive order to get this state back up and running, according to him, soon. And the president may do something similar, but the World Health Organization is saying no. But our president tonight cut off funding to the World Health Organization. And so they don't mean anything to us anymore as a nation, quote unquote. I don't know, question mark. But then you have, for example, some professionals who are saying it may be an 18-month long lockdown. And you have others who say, as today in Pakistan, a bunch of scholars got together and said the mosques will open and people will be praying 6 feet apart. Again, it's all about distractions. What can I do now, where I am now, in the condition I am now? Let's stop worrying about all these things because truly it's not in our control, it's not in our power. We need to focus on making sure that we do what we can do in the circumstances that we are in with the abilities that we have. And so, tonight, as we prepare for Ramadan 9 days from now, which is our spiritual replenishment, our spiritual rejuvenation, our spiritual recharge, we need to start making a plan. The plan doesn't have to be uh, rocket science. It doesn't have to be very difficult and complex. The plan can be simple. This is the time I'm going to wake up. This is the time I'm going to sleep. These are the times I'm going to do my prayers. These are the times I have allotted to do my extra obligatory, the non-obligatory prayers. This is the time I'm going to eat, and this is what I'm going to eat. That's mostly it. And if we could stick to our schedule, we will then find meaning. The reason it's very hard for people in the world right now to find meaning is because there's too many distractions. And what you end up doing is juggling all that information, not knowing how to process it. So, 9 days, let's do a mental flush. Let's flush through this, all that's on our head, all that's on our mind, so we can give space for what should be in our head and what should be on our mind. So, with that being said, we're going to ask you once more, our listeners who have been so gracious to not only select the topics because they want to be part of the conversation, but because they want to continue the conversation, we ask you tonight, Carl, could you tell us, any one of our listeners have any further comments or thoughts or suggestions that they can enlighten us with? With that, Brother Carl.
Yeah, we do have more comments here. We have Sunshine has joined us this evening. Hi, Sunshine. She said that she tweeted an article that said that we will have to be doing some sort of social distancing into 2020, and then she followed that with things cannot go back to norm to as they were before, whether it's religious practices, work, social gatherings, etc. This is part of the new norm, and even what is coming out as part of the new norm will evolve. And honestly, everything that I've heard from uh, different scholars and different research papers, and just even reviewing things from history, I think she's 100% on the point or on point. I couldn't argue with her at all. That she's absolutely right. And before I know you have another meeting to get to, and I know you have.
It's okay. No, no, please. We'll
Well, I
take
was
our.
going to say, well, I actually want to throw it back to you for not only closing thoughts, but I realized something last week when we ended the show that
Mhm.
apparently when I end the broadcast, I can no longer make comments in the comment room. So last week, after the show, I tweeted the link to the O People Foundation, but it didn't go in the comment section. So tonight, when I opened the show, I started by putting the O People Foundation
Yeah.
in the comment section. So as I throw this back to you, did I say I meant to say 2022? Sorry. Apparently, I said distancing till 2020, but I meant to say 2022. So as I throw it back to you for final thoughts on this,
Mhm.
could you please also remind people why they need to click on the O People Foundation link and why they should go and either share that link or donate at that link? Back
Sure.
to you.
Thank you so much for that. And thank you to our listeners for graciously being patient with us as we navigate the hurdles of these technological glitches. But yes, 2022, wow, that just stuck to me. That really stuck hard. And I was talking to a very close friend and an attorney last night about personal issues and, related to um, some work I'm doing. But then when we talked about the quarantine, he said we're looking for opportunities to engage even in quarantine. So it's a time of great opportunities. There's time for a lot that we can accomplish together. But tonight we're just going to share with you once again a message that was shared by the Dallas Morning News this morning that partnering up with Infreda Pizza and many other restaurants in the city, the O People Foundation is partnering up with them to feed 4,000 people this Saturday in the city of Irving, alongside the mayor of the city for free. There's a feeding program that's been ongoing in Dallas. The reason that we are partnering up with restaurants is that Dallas has more restaurants per capita than New York City. And so, with so many options of food and international cuisines, we're partnering up for a long term approach to make sure that restaurants could allocate certain amount of meals on a daily, weekly, monthly basis to feed families who are struggling. There's no test or anything else. People will sign up to O People Foundation. opeople.foundation is our website. The link is there. And when you'll go to that link, we are going to upload a document where you're just going to fill up in the DFW area right now that you would love to have a meal, a hot cooked meal, a meal that we call a meal of, dignity. We understand people are doing a phenomenal job with their food pantries and with their food packages, but we want people to have a meal of dignity, a hot meal that anyone should have the opportunity to eat from these many restaurants. We will then allocate for them those restaurants that they want to go to. All they need to do then is go there, order, pick up, or dine in and leave. And opeople.foundation, our nonprofit organization, will flip the bill. As we foot the bill for this, we are turning to you all for Ramadan. That in Ramadan, there are many families due to the COVID-19 situation and other situations that won't be able to eat these type of meals during Ramadan. There are people who are going to give out bags of rice and cans of oils and olives and stuff, but we're talking again about a hot cooked meal to break their fast and also to start their fast the next day. We've partnered up with 10 restaurants. So if you can graciously donate to opeople.foundation, you'll find the link to our PayPal. Donate what you can. $10 feeds a person for the night meal and the morning meal. And inshallah, we will take the responsibility to make sure that we get those meals to them once or twice a month. We already have a list of quite a few people that are anticipating these meals. And inshallah, God willing, this will continue for as long as we need to do it. So thank you so much for clicking on the link. Thank you so much for getting to know about it more. And we look forward to your partnership as we as a society help the world one meal at a time. So with that, we come to a close of another episode, the 112th episode of Raw Islam, which has made possible by you, our dedicated listeners, contributors, voters, and those who feel that there is some meaning to coming together every Tuesday on the East Coast and every 10th century on the Central Coast or Central Plains of America, and we sit together and converse. And we thank you for that. And with that, from myself, back to you, Carl.
Yes, it is now Wednesday on the East Coast, and no. So, quick question for at least myself and maybe some other interested parties.
Mhm.
Uh, Obviously, by donating to the O People Foundation, we're helping feed people that are in need. And I've said this 1,000 times before. Even if you can't donate, at least share the link.
Mhm.
This is a non-denominational thing. I'm pretty sure there's no test for the food. If I and
Nope.
I'm kind of guessing because I know Imam Mazhar so well. I'm guessing that on the form to get the hot meal, it doesn't say what religion are you, so you get totally taken care of. Non-denominational, feed those in need because of COVID, because of job loss, everything else. So if you can't donate, I totally get it. I totally understand, but at least share the link because that's just as good.
Mhm.
Um, and my question for you, obviously, and I don't know if I'll flip the camera back because it's pretty much a yes or no question.
Sure.
Is my donation to O People Foundation's zakat eligible?
It's tax deductible, but it's not zakat eligible. And the reason is, I know it's hard for some people to realize that nowadays in America, a lot of organizations use the zakat term very loosely. They, say everything is zakat, zakat. Zakat means it has to go to a specific criteria of people, and every drop of curry and every grain of rice, for example, has to go to those people. Since we founded O People Foundation in 2017, we've never taken zakat for our interfaith programs and all our other initiatives only because it's a big trust and we can't fulfill that trust. And so when we feed everyone. And in doing so, since we don't vet them and we don't prove that they are such, see, charity can be given to anyone regardless, but zakat has to fit a very particular criteria. So unfortunately, no, we do not, and I don't think we will ever do zakat because we want to be accountable to the people very clearly, but to be accountable to God with the money that's His, that's something bigger. I can't do that. So
Thank you for that, sir. And you know what? Not to detract from anything that you said this evening, especially about the O People Foundation. I'm just going to thank our listeners, thank our fans, remind everybody to follow us on Twitter, VennNetwork.org. Check out O People Foundation. And until next week, we will say, Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.